From Topps comes the all-new digital card collecting app, free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Star Wars Card Trader.
For the first time ever, collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
All from the comfort of your mobile devices. Star Wars Card Trader.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is. Yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Hello, this is Corey Clubb, and welcome to show number 54 of Coffee with Kenobi. We are a Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host, Dan Z.
Hello, everybody. A special shout-out to Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Daniel, Angela Souse, Neil Lowry, Mediocre Jedi, Nick DiColandrea, Aaron Harris, Mark Sutter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. By supporting our Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways and can also win a Coffee Chat podcast of your very own. Check out our webpage or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, and Zach Designs affiliate links on the site. Thank you for your generosity to the Coffee with Kenobi family.
In today's show, Freddie Prinze Jr. returns as we discuss our topic for show number 54, Star Wars Rebels Season 2. We also discuss the casting of the new Han Solo, the next U.S.-based celebration, Star Wars Podcast Awards, and Nick DiColandrea returns with a look at Star Wars video games.
In collector news, we look at the end of Disney Infinity. We also share more of your feedback and introduce our topic for show number 55.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting.
You found something.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
Hello and welcome to the month of May. It's here at Coffee with Kenobi. Been busy with all kinds of great news coming out of the Star Wars vault and coming straight from Lucasfilm and Disney. So many great things going along with updates for the films and new things for Star Wars and Celebration. So a lot of fun things to talk about this month of May for us. Dan, what's hot on your plate?
Well, it's a hodgepodge of Star Wars goodness, Corey Clubb.
It is.
Things are looking great here for Star Wars and Star Wars fans, Corey, I'd say. It's good to be back with you. So much has happened since our last show. I'm really looking forward to diving into it. We're wrapping up the end of the school year, getting ready for summer, and all kinds of anticipation as we get closer and closer to Rogue One.
Exactly, and it's so much fun because, as the warmer months kind of hit us, you get to go outside and do some more activities outside, and things get more excitement going, buzzing around, activities and summer things. We like to go camping a lot during the summertime. We do. We try to get as much as we can, but things like of that nature. And just, I don't know, to be able to see some summer blockbusters. You and I talked about going and see Captain America Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more blockbusters coming out this year. As far as, I can't even think off the top of my head. Doctor Strange is one of them.
I think that's in the winter, but I know.
Oh, I guess that's more fall, yeah.
X-Men is coming out, which apparently is not getting great buzz, but, we'll see. Lots of interesting things going on, I would say. And apparently, if you follow Corey on Twitter, all the guy does is grill out. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He's out there all the time. And not once, ladies and gentlemen, have I been invited over for a little sandwich, but maybe in the future.
I got a lot of mouths to feed, so
Yes, you do.
Anyway, yeah, it's big fun for us, definitely. And like you said, one of us, the other thing Dan and I talk about a lot is the Cubs. The Chicago Cubs, they're doing great this year. A lot of fun to follow them as well.
So let's go ahead and...
Okay, you want to jump into it? I don't know if you had anything else to say.
No, I couldn't think of it. I wanted to say something about the Cubs, but I don't want to... I was trying to get off track. Yeah, not jinx it.
Damn the jinx.
Oh, okay. I know what I wanted to say.
Okay, yeah.
We also were celebrating our third year at Coffee with Kenobi. Very excited about that. Hard to believe that 3 years ago we got this whole thing started, and things have really exceeded our expectations. I think that's fair to say.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I'm thrilled to see what holds the future, and as far as us getting out in the town, we're going to talk more about that. Some of our upcoming news and hitting some conventions maybe later this year and early next year, of course. But for now, we're going to kind of dip into some of the film news and surrounding the new Han Solo spinoff or Star Wars story, as they call it. So they cast a new Han Solo with the actor Alden Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich? We don't know. It looks like it. Alden
Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich. Alden. We're going to go with Alden. Alden apparently was...
Let's call him Al. That works.
Apparently it's a huge audition. There were 2,500 other Han Solos out there.
Yeah.
And he's getting praised for his role in Hail Caesar, which is not a movie I've seen, but I did talk about it on my recent guest appearance on the Star Wars Report. If you were in a Coen Brothers film that has George Clooney in it, you are a heck of an actor. This guy's going to be awesome. He's 26 years old. Did you see how he was discovered?
No, I didn't.
It's Steven Spielberg saw a video of him at a bat mitzvah, and he was just impressed with him. Yeah, kind of neat because
of just him partying down. Is that what?
I don't really know what he was doing, but I do know that it's very kind of a nice little circular thing here because Han Solo, of course, Harrison Ford, was a carpenter, and he was discovered because they needed someone to read some lines while he was doing some work on a film set. So I kind of like the ambiguity.
Yeah, the way it
just sort of appears in a way that you wouldn't normally expect, not the normal road for an actor to necessarily take. But wow, it's seemed to be going on really well. So we haven't really talked about the spinoff or the Star Wars story for Han Solo, but I mean, how do you feel about the fact that Harrison Ford won't be Han Solo?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that everybody talks about as being a fan. It's who will play the incarnation of the character, a young version or old version or whatever the case may be of that beloved character. And for Han Solo, it's one of those characters that you think, oh, nobody can do that, nobody can pull that off. It's Harrison Ford. He just made that role, just like Indiana Jones. It just seems to be like nobody else can kind of take those reins and fulfill that vacancy if for that actor. But it's interesting that it's a young version, obviously. So you're a little different dynamic, a little more maybe immature in a sense. Not so much maybe the.
Why do you say immature? Just because he's young?
Well, I think the fact that you see Han Solo in Episode 4, A New Hope, and he's cocky, he's sure of himself. And this is a younger version, 20s-ish version.
26.
Yeah,
he's 26
actor,
now.
Yeah. So he's got some years to kind of become the rascal he is in A New Hope.
That's interesting. So you think that he suddenly became a rascal, as they say, right before he walked into the cantina? To me, it would seem like that's just who he is and who he's been his whole life.
I think so too. But I think there coming up to be that person who he is, helping out Luke and Obi-Wan like that. He has to have some kind of background to get him there. So maybe it's a background that maybe he gets into trouble a lot, or the fact that he takes chances and then he loses out. I don't know.
He's a rapscallion.
He's a rapscallion. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he takes more chances or less chances. It just seems. I don't know. I really hope they don't spin it. I guess my hope would be that they do that route. I guess, and that they don't do like a kind of a teen, high school
like something
musical.
From the old WB.
Yeah.
No, do you really think that?
No, I don't. I don't think that at all. But I just.
What is in your coffee?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You probably shouldn't drink it if you don't know. That's a rule you learn in college, Corey. Interesting. I'm not worried at all. I don't even have any thoughts on it. To be honest, the thing when it comes to the Star Wars stories, it sort of shocked me, and this is sort of unusual, because when I went and saw Civil War, they showed the Rogue One trailer, and I had not seen it on the big screen yet, and I was really powerfully underwhelmed seeing it on the big screen. Really? And I can honestly tell you, I've seen all 7 Star Wars films, all the trailers, many, many times in theaters, whether it was the first time I'd seen it or the 50th time or what have you. And I've never been underwhelmed by a Star Wars trailer on the big screen. And this did. And I don't know if it's because I was just really excited about Civil War, or the fact that I knew there was no Skywalkers in it. Now, obviously, I'm thrilled about Rogue One. Hopefully, everyone listening now has gotten a chance to hear our Rogue One trailer analysis. We had a great time with it, and I'm thrilled about it. But I don't know. I guess I wanted to be more blown away seeing it on the big screen. Every time I saw the Force Awakens trailers on the big screen, even when I'd seen it a million times, it still gave me goosebumps. It even got me teary-eyed at times, but not this.
No, it hasn't fallen into a category, and I get your feelings because I sat and watched Civil War and watched all 30 trailers that came before it. So
yeah,
I mean, you're a little like, come on, let's get to the film here. Let's get through this. I mean, so it's a little more of a marketing ploy, a little bit, I think, on their end. I mean, they throw every single trailer before that if they know that the audience will be there, and to see that kind of stuff, and then Star Wars pops up, Rogue One, and I remember seeing it, thinking, oh, cool, I haven't seen this yet on big screen, like you said. And sitting there, I kind of thought, oh, this is cool. And I feel like, okay, this is cool, but I want to get to the movie type thing. Versus,
but you never felt that way for Force Awakens, I'm sure.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it's just that it's because I've seen it already. It's already, it's still fresh in my mind. Still, I'm still hyped kind of over the first seeing the trailer online.
Yeah, that was magic. For some reason, watching it on my phone had more of an impact on me than watching it on the big screen. That's weird. Like, I hope that goes away. But
well, I think that's just our way of life now. We consume the media. We see it through our phone, through our iPad, or through our desktop computer.
Oh, you're
before
right.
we see it in theaters. It's just how it happens.
You're right. It's just I think the reason it's so unusual to me though is that just a few short months ago, it was The Force Awakens, and it completely blew me away.
Well, I think too they didn't really announce it. It kind of just dropped online, and nobody really said anything about it. It was kind of out of the blue. And it seems like that's the kind of the way they're getting these things out there to get people talking about it, get conversations going, and see where that leads to. So I think it's fun, but I think it's a little, like you said, underwhelming to see it where on its medium on the big screen it should be one of those things that blows you away, and you're like, oh wow, what is this all about? So it's interesting that it's taken that way over the years.
One thing though I will say about this actor as Han Solo Alden. Do you care that he looks like Harrison Ford or doesn't look like Harrison Ford? It doesn't matter to me at all. I mean, as long as he's not dressed like Bozo the Clown,
well, that's a good thing.
I'm fine with it. As long as I care about being a quality actor. You don't need to look like Harrison Ford. You don't need to be. I mean, obviously he needs to be tall because Harrison Ford is tall. But I think it would be neat that if he really does a good job, they end up casting him for Indiana Jones stuff too. Because let's just keep that, synchronicity there.
That's the joke. I guess I would disagree. He looks like.
Disagree with which part?
Oh, let me finish. I think he looks like a Dennis Quaid actor, young Dennis Quaid. I've said it before. I think another conversation between you and I and Jeff McGee, and I disagree in the fact that he should not play Indiana Jones to carry that, quote unquote, tradition, if you will. Mm-hmm. Now, because they're two separate characters, and to see him as a young Han Solo and a young Harrison Ford, a young Han Solo and a young Indiana Jones, you're jumping too many fandoms, if you will. It seems like it's, I mean, Chris Evans made the jump over from Human Torch to Captain America. That's fine. I mean, that seems to work, I guess. But like
beautifully, yeah.
This is a character. These are two characters so iconic in film that it's one of those things that you have to get exactly right in order to tell the story it's supposed to be telling, versus just to cast the actor to make a lookalike, quote unquote lookalike, or has acting chops to back it up type thing. I don't know what this guy, what his acting's like. I'd love to check out some of his films before we see him on the big screen as Han Solo. But there's some of these young actors you don't know so well going in. A good example is Episode 7. Seeing these new young actors come in and just completely just wrap you up in the story, and you just absolutely forget who they are. We forget them as an actor and dive into their character on the screen. So I hope that's the case versus trying to get this actor to fill these shoes that are vacant. And
there are a number of people out there who are a little concerned, to be fair, that there's no Harrison Ford. But again, the guy's clearly a good actor. If the Coen brothers believe in him, if Lucasfilm believes in him, it'll be fun. I would assume that for this, we'll probably see a trailer for this. Oh, let's see.
Maybe in December?
No, it's way too early.
You think it's too early? I don't know.
Because this year is Rogue One. Next year is Episode 8. And then...
That's Celebration.
Right. So maybe it could be. I mean, I would assume the next celebration, the next U.S. celebration is going to be Episode 8, just like for Celebration Anaheim. But that leads us kind of to our next news story.
Yeah, there you go.
So speaking of that, I remember when I got the news from you about The Force Awakens, or about Disney buying Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I got the news about the new Indiana Jones movie. Both times, incredibly excited. Now, this was not at that level, but it felt pretty darn close because, Corey, Celebration is coming to Orlando in 2017. How great is that?
It's wonderful. I can't be more stoked for the event, for the venue. It just floods back memories of going to Anaheim. And unfortunately, we can't make it to Europe this year.
Unless it's a Christmas miracle.
Christmas miracle. Oh, man, would it be crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we'd love to be there with all our friends and just all those awesome things they're doing there, I'm excited for Orlando as well. I mean, just as much. I just think that, just you got the notification on my phone that they announced it on May the 4th, celebrating Star Wars Day, and it was just... Was it a dream come true for you? I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's a great venue, I think, to be able to explore, Disney and, just the event itself is going to be fun and have a great time.
Well, the thing that's different about this, it was neat that they were releasing on May the 4th. That was really cool. But the thing that is different about this for me is that the last celebration was just a really, truly magical experience. We really just had a great time in being a part of the show and getting to know more people online has really enhanced the entire thing for us and definitely enhanced it for me, I know. And it's just good for you and I to hang out that much and to just celebrate our mutual love of Star Wars with all these amazing people. And knowing that it's in Orlando is extra special to me because not only do I have some actual points of reference as far as what Celebration is like when you're covering that event, as well as participating as a fan and a podcaster, is that Orlando's sort of like a second home to me because I worked at Disney World, for a year.
Got some roots there, bud.
Back in the day, yeah. And I know it really well. It's easy for me to get around there, and it's great fun. And it seems like quite a few of our bloggers and quite a few of our friends are going to be there. People that we've never gotten to meet, like Dennis Keithley, and Mike is going to be here. Mike McDonald. And it's just a really, really cool thing for me because how often, do you get to hang out with everybody like this?
Aaron Harris?
Yeah, Aaron. Well, Aaron will be there, and I've met Aaron, but you haven't met him.
I haven't met him yet. Great opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be so much fun. And we already got our hotel and everything.
I know.
So,
yeah, let's talk about that just for a second.
Sure.
So Dan and I, we get together with these crazy ideas, and Dan is the type person that jumps in with 2 feet. I mean, literally, like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this and this, and I'm like, wait a minute, let's just talk about this. Let's just step by step, take it a moment at a time, and that's how we bounce off each other a little bit for some of the stuff we do. I'm definitely Mr. Let's plan it out. Let's make sure the price is right. Let's make sure it's close to the venue. All these things. And there's going to be taxis. What are we going to do in a car? Or is there going to be food to eat? All these things. And Dan's just like, well, we'll eat the garbage. We'll just walk from there. We'll borrow someone's shoes, and then we'll just use a kite to fly over. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. So if
it's that makes you sound reckless.
So much fun because it's like I'm the guy who's holding back on the reins, and you're the horse that's ready to trot forward as fast as possible. So, I mean, that's kind of how it was when we were picking up our hotel and getting things organized for this. But I'm glad we did because you guys are a great price and great, super close, and it's exciting. It's just so much fun to be able to get to this point and be involved and we're gonna do it. We're gonna attend a Celebration 2017.
It's pretty wonderful, yeah. And I believe your hyperbolic recant of everything that happened is just fun. But
dead on.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to eat trash or wrestle a raccoon. No, here, basically, I'm more like, all right, here's what we're doing, and I did the research. I did the research for about an hour or two, But you didn't know that because you were a little gun shy, and I was more like, if we don't do this now, this is the collector in me. If you don't jump on it now, you're going to miss the price. You're going to miss the opportunity. And some of the hotels we were looking at before were already gone as far as availability of certain nights. So we jumped on it and had a bit of a powwow, and it's fun. That's actually part of the fun for me is it's just sort of our process and how we make this happen. And I'm so thrilled about Celebration. There's no word, of course, what's happening in Orlando because everything's about Celebration London right now, and rightfully so. Speaking of Celebration London, there was some pretty awesome news for a member of our Coffee with Kenobi family, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. So exciting. So much fun.
Pretty exciting. Amy Ratcliffe, co-host of Lattes with Leia, is going to host the behind-the-scenes stage at Celebration London, which is really, really awesome.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
It's probably a huge dream, and as far as anybody doing something of that nature, I think it's fun to be able to get in on the ground floor and be able to do all kinds of exciting events and be able to have such great experiences as a fan.
And it shows that she works hard. She's one of the hardest working people in the industry.
Yes, exactly.
And she is passionate and intelligent, and she knows her Star Wars, man, and she's good with people. So this is so cool. It caught me. I mean, we talk to her fairly regularly, but this caught me completely by surprise because she's a professional and keeps her cards close to the vest because that's what you do when you're a professional. So we are pumped and so happy for her and cannot wait to see the awesome things she's going to do at Celebration London. All right, but back to Celebration Orlando for a quick little minute. If there is a podcasting stage, my friend, do you think we should give it a shot?
Absolutely. I mean, yes. I think it was such a blast to do it last time and have the honor of just being able to kick that off, something new that it had at Star Wars Celebration. It was so much fun. It was exciting. It was nerve-wracking. I think it's one of probably my favorite experience from Celebration was just doing that podcast stage, and just the events leading up to it, getting prepared, and just having a huge room full of fans and family and friends of the show, and just having a blast to do that. And I would love to do it again.
Me too. Me too. I don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's in fact, I mean, we don't know anything about what's going to happen or whatever, and they may not have planned it for all we know. We have no idea because again, London is the main focus, and I'm pretty sure there is no podcast stage in London, to my knowledge. But I've already been thinking about, okay, if this does happen, if we are fortunate enough to get picked again, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? Now that's a long way away. We got a lot of shows between. Yeah, we'll talk Star Wars. It's a good idea.
Good stuff. Speaking of podcasts, Dan, for our next news story, we had the honor of participating in the podcast awards, Star Wars Podcast Awards this year, and what a wonderful time to be a Star Wars fan and be able to do what we do, love what we do, and we were fortunate enough to win 2 categories. I'll mention the first one here. It was the cover art, the logo for Coffee with Kenobi, designed by myself, and obviously Dan had a lot of input on that. And kind of one of the things, our little babies, we kind of started out with, be able to launch the podcast with, and be able to kind of get our brand out there a little bit. And we won that category, and we're thrilled. It was so much fun. So
well, it's very kind of you to say that I did have input. I mean, I did have some input. I mean, we talked back and forth a lot. No, that was really fun. We were making things happen. But dude, this is you. I am so proud of the fact that you won this thing because I've said many times, both on the air and privately with you, because you made our logo look so beautiful, that gave people an opportunity to listen to our show that may not have done so because, you can't judge a book by its cover. But in this instance, what you created was wonderful, and I'm really proud of you, man. Hats off to you all the way.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled to win it, and I'm humble about it, I guess, in my own way. I'm like, it's not a big deal. It's what I do type thing. It's just it comes natural for me, I think, in a sense, as a designer, and it's fun. I'm able to get excited when I can express myself in various ways, and I think for any fan to be able to do that and have a good time doing that is all they could be asked to do. So, what about that next category, Dan?
Corey, the next category just blew me away. It was the People's Choice Award. It's the last award they give. And we made it down to the top 10 shows, and the company in this group was so impressive. Shows that we're fans of and that we enjoy. So I'll let you know how I handled this when I heard that we won. Yeah, it came out and I texted you and I said, hey, the Podcast Awards podcast is up. Let's listen to it. And you got a chance to hear it before I did, and I just sort of had a feeling, so I texted you and I said, hey, let's not talk about it until we know that both of us have seen it or have listened to it. And you said, okay. And you didn't really say anything at all.
Yeah.
And then I got an email from Bobby Roberts, and he said, hey, congratulations on your awards. And I said, oh, thanks. We haven't heard it yet, but thank you. So I thought, awards, okay, that's plural. That's more than one. All right, let's see. I mean, while I was listening to it, I was working out. So I had it I think that was probably a good thing because I was excited and nervous and I'm not really sure why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we heard the cover art and I was thrilled about that. And then we weren't coming up on anything else, which, I didn't care. I just enjoyed listening because it's fun. And the entertainment value of the show itself, if you haven't heard the actual podcast awards, they're a blast. They're a ton of fun. And listen to everybody present awards. We presented the award for adaptation fan fiction, which went to Smuggler's Bounty from Rebel Force Radio. And we had fun recording that and editing that and putting that together. So anyway, we get to the People's Choice Awards, and I'm doing laundry of all things. And I hear them saying, and the People's Choice Award goes to, and they say Coffee with Kenobi. And my mouth literally was agape. I just opened my mouth, like, what? Really? It was so cool. I cannot thank our listeners and everybody who voted for us and your continued support. It's wonderful. Thank you so much to everybody who voted for us. We put a lot of work into this show, but we also know that everybody else puts a lot of work into their shows too. So just to even be considered and to have this go to us this year was such a tremendous blessing. We're just so grateful.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Dan. I just feel blessed.
And honestly, it's
to do it, to have the opportunity to do the show itself. So. And the fans just give back so much. So, it's so much fun.
It's great. And it's not just us, I think Lattes with Leia, Legends Library, Comics with Kenobi, Rebels Reactions, all of our shows, all of our amazing bloggers, Lisa for all the hard work she does on our website and social media. It all contributes to it, and I'm happy to be part of this Coffee with Kenobi family. I'm happy to be part of this Star Wars fandom, and it's great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Hello there again, my Coffee with Kenobi friends. This is Nick Dico, your friendly neighborhood guide to all things video games in the Star Wars universe. So it is May, and last month I updated you guys on a few things I thought while researching in the middle of the night of the video games coming up for 2016-17. Well, what a month May has been. If you've been living under a tauntaun for the past couple of weeks, you might have missed some incredible news around the Star Wars universe's video games that are currently offered and soon to be offered. So I want to take a little bit of my time today, again, to talk to you about stuff coming down the pipeline and not necessarily reviewing anything that's currently out there, even though I do have a small review for the game Battlefront's Outer Rim DLC, but I'll get to that in a moment. Let's talk about May. May the 4th be with you. That doesn't even begin to describe how crazy the month was for video games and Star Wars. So let's jump right in it, like Boba Fett into a Sarlacc, or if you prefer, a nested Gundarks, if you were Anakin and Obi-Wan. So what we have heard and what we have seen just in the last few weeks is that we've had good news and bad news. I'll start with the bad news first. Get it out of the way. If you haven't heard, I hate to break it to you, Disney Infinity is no more. That's right. Corey and Dan are talking about this today on the podcast as well, but I want to take a minute just to give you my perspective of what's happened and why it's happening. There is really no good reason why to a fan of the games that this is happening. What it boils down to is just the marketability and profitability for Disney, which is unfortunate. And the things that we've heard that were going to be created and was in the pipeline for 2016 and 17, I wasn't that far off the mark, actually, from last month. We would have seen a Rogue One addition to the series. We would have seen an addition to having all the characters being played in larger toy boxes and larger sets across Marvel and Star Wars storylines. But on top of that, we've seen some things, and we saw and we heard different items coming down the pipeline where we weren't going to expect. A potential episode 8 would have been in Disney 4.0, which probably could have been released in maybe around September of next year. Not this year, but maybe May of next year. Also, we would have seen 12-inch characters for the Infinity sets. Can you imagine having a 12-inch Darth Vader in the characters that Disney Infinity currently has? That would have been pretty epic, but I'm not sure what they would have done in the game unless they had some sort of Super Mario version of Darth Vader in the game. That being said, it is sad to see Disney Infinity go by the wayside. It was more profitable and the king of the toy-based action line for video games. It was beating LEGO Dimensions and it was beating the Skylanders by all accounts from folks that kind of crunch these numbers for Business Insiders. So the reason why we've seen that Disney has cut this line was that it wasn't as profitable as they hoped, and their licensing is actually more profitable in the end, which means programs like Battlefront and other EA licenses were cutting into the profitability margins of Disney Infinity. And so when you're a company like Disney, you want to maximize most of your output, even if the game is solid, even if the fans love it, which is unfortunate for us that come to have loved the game, collected the figurines, and have really appreciated everything they did behind it. As I know I've discussed with Dan on Twitter, these things were like a work of art, and collecting them and having them displayed in the office of your home was part of the fun of the Disney Infinity series. So it is really disappointing to see them go by the wayside. Is there potential for another company to pick it up? Maybe Disney licenses that out to EA. I wouldn't bet on it. But as I said last month, crazier things have happened. And case in point, crazier things have happened since last month, since we've talked about these video games that are coming down the line. We are now going to be seeing, after all, a new third-person shooter. It's being put on by EA, part of their companies. Respawn is actually going to be developing a third-person shooter. Much like I mentioned last month, we could be seeing finally the sequel to Republic Commando, maybe Imperial Commando, maybe something tied to Rogue One, but I would imagine we'll be sure that it's going to be canon related. If Disney's doubling down on licensing and having video games out there that are going to be taking up their whole profitability margin, folks are going to want to start playing campaign-based, really big things that are going to be around the canon of Star Wars. So I would imagine both this game and a new game also by EA that's being headed by the folks that brought you Uncharted and Dead Space could be open world galaxy type of game that we've talked about previously. It could be a RPG. We don't really know yet. I would expect more information about both of these games down the line. But both of these games mean that we are getting more video games, period, that currently we never thought we might not get. Even with the loss of Infinity, a really good platform game for all consoles. We were surprised with new knowledge that we are getting 2 standalone shooters, RPGs, something that's coming down the pipeline that's being licensed out from Disney to EA. So this is great news. This should lift our spirits, even though we're losing a stalwart for the past couple of years in the Star Wars universe with Infinity. On top of that, we did also learn recently that Battlefront is getting a sequel. Not really a surprise, but maybe it is, depending on if you looked at reviews from Metacritic, where we've seen an average go back and forth between 73 and 75. So nothing really too phenomenal folks are reviewing about this game. But it looks like the reason why Battlefront didn't have a campaign was to get the product to market for the release of The Force Awakens. So instead of getting a campaign mode, we just kind of got the canon teaser with the Battle of Jakku. And Disney made that call. They said, put this game out. We want it in time with episode 7. And so let's make it happen. So the EA and DICE are now going back to the drawing board, are hearing critics, are hearing the fans, and they're going to put in a campaign mode. At least that's what most folks are saying for Battlefront 2. What's Battlefront 2 going to revolve around? Rogue One, Episode 8. It could be the new trilogy. But one thing we know for sure, that's probably not going to be the prequels. So sorry, guys. No heroic Jar Jar Binks action for you to take on some droid armies. But that should be exciting enough for us, too, just to know that EA, Disney, the companies that be, even though we are seeing the shutdown of Disney's video game studios, interactive studios, we are getting more games. We are getting more storylines and things to do in the Disney universe. Not to mention, next month, like I mentioned in April, in June, we'll be getting the Lego Force Awakens, which is a huge, fun game. Still nothing new to hear about it yet, but I look forward to seeing it next month come out, hopefully getting some time to play it later in June and giving you guys a review for the month of July. But yeah, so we are seeing an immense doubling down on the video games just in the last few weeks alone, which really is a 180 from where we were video games wise back in February, where we just kind of had Disney Infinity, some mobile games, and Battlefront. Just feelers out there about these other games happening. Was Battlefront 2 going to happen? When would it happen? But now we have confirmations from Disney and from EA that these games are coming down the pipeline. So we should expect some quality video games, canon, storylines, new characters, our favorite characters every year, 2016, 17, 18, in big ways, as Disney recognizes the value of the gaming community, of the stories that it can tell on top of the movies and the TV shows that they're releasing. On top of that, we also learned that, and don't forget, May 25th, Star Wars Celebration Orlando tickets go on sale. Star Wars Celebration for Europe is actually going to be highlighting video games in a huge way. So if you're thinking about Orlando in a year, if you're going to the one in Europe, they're actually bringing out some big gaming communities to have meetups and gaming halls and really kind of share in the fun that we get to do when we play these games online. It's been learned that Battlefront, Lego, The Force Awakens, Star Wars Commander, which is a mobile game, Galaxy of Heroes, which is a mobile game, the Old Republic mobile version, and the Force Collection card game will all be showcased and highlighted and played and available for folks to just kind of dive in the gaming community at Celebration Europe. So that's really a big step in the video game community for Star Wars fans to know that we don't have to go to PAX or video game kind of cons just to get our Star Wars fix around fellow gamers. We can show up to Celebration and play with the people that we already playing with, be surrounded by other folks that maybe haven't been playing these games, and show them how much fun it is. So that was a big thing to hear come out just a few days ago. So just to recap, we have seen an immense shift in the landscape of the video game community for Star Wars. It's exciting, it's disappointing and sad. We're losing a really good game in Infinity, but we should be equally excited that we're really getting some new fun games coming out. One of the things I wanted to mention before I wrap this up was the new DLC for Battlefront, Outer Rim, which you can play as Greedo or Nien Nunb. And I mentioned previously, my thrill for that was probably as happy as a hut in summer on Tatooine. But having a chance to play for free over the past weekend, I will say that DLC is an exciting part in addition to the Star Wars game, which gives me hope for the next couple of DLCs having come down the line, which will be Bespin, the Death Star, and most likely something to do with Rogue One later in early 2017. So exciting about that. If you haven't purchased DLCs, if you had a chance to try it out, maybe over the weekend, shoot me a tweet at Nick Dico. Love to hear your thoughts on it. And before next month, I'd love to hear your thoughts on games that you are currently playing that we haven't talked about. Maybe it's a mobile game. Maybe it's an old console game that you really are still playing on a 360 or a PC. You can get a lot of the old games still on the PC and play them regularly if you like to. So send me your thoughts. Tell me what you would think we should cover in this monthly segment. I love covering all the new stuff coming out. I love giving you my opinions and reviews on the things that I've played, just as a father of three who has little time but really enjoys the storyline aspect that these games provide and the canon parts of those stories that we get to see in the video game world. But I'd love to hear from you. So with that, I want to turn it back over to Dan and Corey, and may the force be with you.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say,
Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
So for our first collector's news story, we go from some happy news, which we talked about, with Han Solo and Celebration Orlando and the fun things coming out of the Star Wars Podcast Awards. We go to something really depressing, and that's the fact that Disney Infinity was canceled. And what were your initial reactions to this?
I was a little shocked, to be honest. I mean, I thought the franchise was doing a good job of, having the characters come to life on the video game screen there. I certainly had a good time playing the game. My kids still play it all the time. It's a great crossover from, putting your favorite character on little pod there and be able to play as them on the screen. And it was such a wide range of fun characters, a lot of Disney characters from different, Pirates of the Caribbean to, Marvel stuff to classic Disney characters to, just a huge range of different characters that you could be into. And I was surprised because they have such a large part of, culture and icons, and as far as, they could really dig deep to expand that and make a lot of fun. And I guess I was surprised to say the least.
Oh, I noticed that when you were mentioning all of the pantheon of characters and licenses that are in Disney Infinity, you didn't mention Star Wars, and I can only assume that's because you have all of mine and you want me to forget that you have them, so I'll never get them back.
That's probably true. Yeah, I have a lot.
No, it's really a bummer for me. Before it was announced, I got an email about this through the Star Wars community. I got a heads up on it, and I was really stunned. Apparently, Disney is leaving game publishing altogether. They're still going to do games. We're going to license them out. They're not going to do it in-house, I guess. Apparently, Disney Infinity lost $147 million the last fiscal quarter. Really? And instead of deciding to right the ship, they just decided, we're just going to cut our ties with this thing. Now, they are going to have 2 more play sets coming out. The Alice in Wonderland from the upcoming Johnny Depp film. And then the Finding Dory is going to have a play set as well. But it's such a bummer, and there are a lot of questions out there that have not been answered, such as, what about your existing games, your existing Toy Box mode, and the online play? Are all the servers going to be shut down? Because I'm sure they're expensive to run as well. But
yeah.
And you can still play your individual play sets and things like that. But I'm really bummed. For one thing, the collectability value of those characters is just great, and the only 2 I don't have right now are Obi-Wan and Boba Fett. So I want I know you do. So I'm thinking maybe I need to run out and get them, or maybe they'll be everywhere because it's like they either be everywhere because of a surplus because they don't make the game anymore, or collectors will say, "Oh my gosh, this won't be available. I better snatch these things up."
Dan, it's interesting to think too. I remember when the set was being announced, and we had a big kind of to do over the podcast and announcing it, and be able to, have the opportunity to play early versions of the game itself. And we got so excited about it because the idea of, like you said, the little sculpted characters as collectibles, plus having it play in a game, plus, just the fun to be able to interact with your favorite Star Wars character and play out some of the saga in multiple different ways and explore Disney and explore all different, it's a big mashup of different characters. And we've reviewed quite a few different characters on the show here, and it's kind of sad to see it go in a sense, just to be able to just enjoy it and have fun and interact and kind of make memories. I know a lot of folks online as well who like playing it and having those interactions as well too. So it's difficult.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed. I was really bummed because, like you said, it was just a ton of fun. Disney was good to us. We had fun with it, discussing it, playing with our children, and I'm glad at least that I'll be able to play what I have, but I'm going to miss it. I guess one of the things that they had in the works was Rogue One stuff, which of course they do, or would have. And I remember seeing images of the Force Awakens Han Solo with the gray hair, the silver hair, and I really wanted that collectible figure. And I don't know if they're going to produce it or not. My guess is probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. And like you said, if they're getting out of the video games division or whatnot, maybe passing on certain things, maybe it will just kind of come back to life in a different form or something like that. Maybe somebody else will snatch it up and be able to take on the licensing and produce it in a different way to make it more equitable as far as making more money, I guess. It's interesting, but it's unfortunate to see it kind of dropped like that.
Hey, it's Dan Z.
And Corey Clubb.
From Coffee with Kenobi, and we are excited to let you know about the Star Wars card trader app from Topps.
Yeah, Dan, you remember those cards that came out in 1977, the good old days? Well, they're back again. Yeah, so it's the Star Wars card trader app. It has them all, as well as fantastic images from The Force Awakens, The Clone Wars, Rebels, and much more.
Absolutely. You've got your favorite characters, memorable scenes, you've got key moments. It's all there. You get credits every day for free from the app, which is available from iTunes or Google Play. Open packs from the cantina, trade with your friends, and enjoy these amazing Star Wars memories as you take your first step into a larger world.
There's so many different sets to choose from also, and there's so many great cards to chase. There's special inserts, there's rewards for completing sets and variants, It's everything you love in collecting from a galaxy far, far away.
The Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Our topic for show number 54 is a closer look at Star Wars Rebels Season 2. What kind of impact did this season have on the hit series, as well as Star Wars in general? How will Kanan be changed as a result of the finale? And what happened with Ezra? Returning to Coffee with Kenobi for his 5th appearance is our good friend Freddie Prinze Jr. Freddie always brings insights into Star Wars, as well as humor and style, and he also has a new book and television show to talk about as well. Welcome back, Freddie.
Hey guys, how are you?
We are awesome, man. It's good to chat with you again. You have been quite the ubiquitous fellow, man. You are everywhere.
Yeah, man. This is probably the longest we've gone without talking. It's been a while.
So yeah, it seems like it's been a while, but it's always worth the wait. We always have a great time chatting with you. We get great feedback from everybody, and obviously, Rebels Season 2 was a huge phenomenon, and Twitter just. I think they had to open up a new server just to talk about it. but honestly, not counting the finale of Season 2, what are some of the moments from that season that you were the most proud of?
Okay, yeah, we can discuss the finale later at length, or that's an entire podcast if you really want to be in depth with it. But Kanan's growth in Season 2 is exponential compared to Season 1. And a lot of those trials that we talked about that I said were arguable, but I didn't think I would get on the side of he passed trial A, B, and C. A lot of those, not a lot as in the 5, but a lot of those issues we discussed really came to light in Season 2 to the point where he actually becomes a Jedi Knight.
And we are definitely going to get into that with you for sure, because I got to.
Yeah, and the way that happened, and the fact that it's a Force vision, and it comes from Jason Isaacs' character, is such a humbling and empowering moment. You know, all at the same time, and it's this constant reminder that selflessness is the key to victory for the Jedi and in life in general. But it's why there's never an argument that the Sith can win. The Sith say it themselves. They need 2, not 3, not 1, 2. They are codependent. They rely on each other and depend on one another, master and apprentice, but they are emotionally dependent on one another. The Padawan-Jedi relationship cannot be emotional for it to be successful. They remind us of this, and they punish Jedi that don't follow this rule all the time. No attachments, no attachments, no attachments. It's the ones with no attachments that can be selfless, that are just there to teach the student. Those are the ones that are successful because they are self-reliant. And it's why one Jedi can always win. And the reason why 2 Sith can't is because once one of their wills is weakened, or they're physically weakened, the other is doomed to fail. And it's that codependent relationship, and it works with the Emperor and Vader, it works with Maul and Savage, it works with Dooku and Asajj, it works in any Sith relationship you can find. But it's that codependency that forces them to fail, and Kanan has to learn this lesson the hard way every single time. And I love that in that moment of him, and you could say to the untrained eye, oh, he quit. But it's not quitting, it's letting go. And when he lets go, we hope he's learned this time. He has this moment and gets knighted, and it's that reminder of no attachments, Kanan, no attachments, no attachments. And that's what's going to save Ezra, because now we've seen Ezra get tempted and touched by the dark side, and it's that lesson that can save him. And if Kanan hasn't learned it, then Ezra's in a lot more trouble than we'd like to think. But hopefully, hard-headed Kanan has learned something this time around.
Yes.
You guys with me?
Yeah, we're still here.
Great, yeah.
So, speaking about attachments and the Jedi and such, It made me think of Kanan and Ezra's relationship in this series, and seeing them grow through season 2 and kind of go through the trials of the temple and things like that you talked about. You said they've got to let go and such. We see that as well with Ahsoka's character and how she has to be kind of a solo character. So maybe let's talk about that a little bit and how she kind of intertwines in their relationship.
Well, Ahsoka is such a complicated character, right? She's the one that walked away. It's such a hardcore decision for her, and it ripped so many people in two. So when she's looking at the Jedi-Padawan relationship, she's looking at it honestly and objectively, more so, I think, than any Jedi has really looked at that relationship ever, from Obi-Wan to friggin' Yoda. And I'm not blowing smoke. She walked away. Some people call her a gray Jedi. You can't even really call her a Jedi if you want to be legit about it. She's a Force wielder. But her look on it and the small bits of advice that she gives to Ezra, and this about when he can't reach those spiders and he doesn't know why, and she's, the lesson is, you can't affect everything the way you want. You can't impose your will on these things. These creatures they're not good or evil. They're sort of reacting to what you bring to the table. And that's what Ezra is dealing with. And it's her small hints that are supposed to help get him there. Or with Kanan in the finale, and I know we'll discuss that later. It's the small things. It's when she says, because you taught him. She's teaching Kanan a lesson there. Hopefully, we hope Kanan can learn this, which is, trust yourself. Accept that you are a teacher. Accept that you are a Jedi Knight and stop doubting yourself, or he's dead. But she's not going to say it that bluntly. That would be more a Han Solo thing to say. So she says it in a very philosophical Eastern philosophy style. Her fighting style is even much more Eastern philosophy, like when she owns on sevens and goes into her little Buddha pose, just to be like, oh, in your face. That's like her little Michael Jordan tongue. But her whole vibe now is much more, I think, of what Dave originally wanted for her, which is a samurai, right? The female two-sword samurai, which is a famous character from the 70s. Mm-hmm. But she got to sort of embody that samurai style and more representative than really anybody's gotten to do it. I mean, there's books that in the EU where there have been extremely disciplined seraphim like Jedi, but as far as in the animated world and the movies, she's so zenned out in season 2. It's just insane. She is Buddha. She's Buddha. Mm-hmm. Or you could say she's Lao Tzu, because that's more sacrificial.
And also, she doesn't have the Buddha belly.
True, and Lao Tzu didn't either. Lao Tzu was Taoism, and he was much more like, why can't the farmer be emperor instead of sort of stay in your place, which was the philosophy before he existed. And he was born, the legend was, he was born as an old man. He was born at 99 years old. And that's Ahsoka. Ahsoka is the old, wise,
the old soul,
know-it-all. And I don't mean know-it-all in a bad way. She really does. She's seen both sides of the coin, and you lose because war is going to cause you to lose. Like that whole argument, are you Team Cap or Team Iron Man? And I'd always say I'm Team Dolph Lundgren because they both lose. And that's what Ahsoka knows. And so when she comes in and is this sort of, Tano 2.0, I just fell in love with it, man. And we knew to a degree what was going to happen. Dave tried to make us think that he was gonna kill her and kind of kept everything on the hush, but I didn't think he had the guts to pull the trigger. I mean, he was Ezra trying to kill Sevens with his lightsaber, but he just couldn't do it. So I kind of knew she was gonna live, and I'll say that she's use the left side of your brain in this, not the right side. Mm-hmm. The right side of your brain is gonna see images that aren't there and are going to see a blue haze that wasn't there and think she's a Force spirit. No, the left side of your brain says you saw Ahsoka walk into that temple. So Ahsoka is alive.
That's I agree with you. Believe
that. Believe it.
What I always tell people is, to me, because we've loved this character for such a long time, there is no way that Dave's going to deny us the pathos to if she does end up sacrificing or something happens and she does lose her life. There's no way Dave is going to deny the audience that power.
Look, I firmly believe that Dave had a vision for Rebels long before Rebels was needed.
Mm-hmm.
I think he didn't see Ahsoka's story ending in Clone Wars. And I think he saw that story carrying over. I think that's why you saw so many characters coming over. And I wouldn't put it past Dave to already be thinking of another piece of time in the Star Wars universe where a handful of these characters, or maybe just one or two of these characters, get to exist. He does a great job for Disney. And listen to me when I say this. That company respects him. They understand who his mentor was. They understand just how good he is. And a lot of the well wishes that people want for him, I firmly believe he's going to get. And I think he's going to put multiple fingerprints on this company by the time he's done. I think Dave is going to create multiple, not just series, but just like small animated movies, big animated movies. I think he's going to direct a Star Wars film one day. And understand, like, I don't just say that because I like Dave. I've been in this business for 20 plus years. I know how things work, and I know if a company thinks they can make money on somebody, they're going to try to make money on somebody. And Dave's a really smart guy. He's an amazing storyteller. And not only can he tell a story, but he has the ability to express it visually and show you a work of art and tell you a sick story that you wish your dad would have told you when you were 8 years old. That's how special he is. And I don't throw compliments at people unless they deserve it. You don't hear me throw that stuff around to anyone.
True.
And Dave and I aren't the best of friends. Like, I wish we were. I really respect him and like him. We're professional and we like each other and we talk and laugh about World of Warcraft. But we're not like, hey, how's the kids and the wife? You know, we don't speak every day. I'm saying this because I know this business and I respect the hell out of that guy. So if you're seeing these types of images now, I feel personally you're seeing that for a reason. And I think Dave's vision goes far further than any fan's vision. And I think it's thought of every scenario and already knows whether those would work or not. I mean, he is playing chess on a checkerboard and winning every single game, and that's why this show's so darn good, man.
Oh, I agree, and everything you said about the potential for him to put his fingerprint on more of the Star Wars tapestry, we are all for that. Obviously, I want to go back to what you're talking about with the Inquisitor and Jason Isaacs and that powerful moment. That was great. I mean, I know Corey and I, of course, we're big Kanan fans, as you may have heard, Freddie. So we were so pumped that he was actually officially, quote, a Jedi Knight, even though it sort of felt like he already was. It just made it more real, I suppose. But they all have different visions in that episode, Shroud of Darkness. Ahsoka's with Anakin, Ezra with Yoda, a very unusual looking Yoda. And to me, I'm thinking that the more strong Ezra is in the Force, the more fully fleshed out Yoda will be in those visions. But that's just my
that's a great philosophy. I love that.
I think that'd be cool. But Kanan's with the Inquisitor. So how do we interpret these visions, Freddie? And obviously, there's only so much you're allowed to say or what have you. But was that really him? Was that just what he pictured in his brain? I don't know.
Oh no, that's him. I'm allowed to say that.
Really?
That's full on. That is his projected Force image in that vision. That is not what Kanan needed to get through that moment. That I mean, look, Dave even said it. Like he was in the Clone Wars. You know what I mean? Like, and Kanan wasn't aware of that. Kanan didn't ever have that image, so that's not Kanan projecting. You know, that guy. That is being inserted into Kanan's vision because the Force dictates that, not the Force user. The Force dictates the balance in the universe. The Force dictates Sith and Jedi, not the. You know, we make our choices, but the Force will balance if you make the one that the Force doesn't agree with. When Anakin chooses to go to the dark side, that's his choice, but the Force is in control because it gives him twins to double the amount of good side that the Emperor has just now put out of balance with the evil side. So the Force is in charge here. not Kanan. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Palpatine knows about Anakin. He knows about the Force. He's aware of its presence beyond him, which is why instead of killing Anakin, which would simply cause the Force to birth another, he seduces Anakin and turns him to double his power. But the Force is too slick for that, and that's why you get twins. And we can, by the way, we can do this down the line as far as Force balance all the way into Force Awakens.
Yes.
From Luke imbalancing the Force to the good side, so the Force then auto corrects that and turns what people think is one of his students, but is most certainly Han and Leia's son, Dark, to rebalance it. And then what does the Force do when Plagueis and his power gets too strong? Then boom! I said Plagueis, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
But then it gives us Rey, and Rey gets this Force explosion that takes her power to the point where people got pissed off. They thought she was too good and too talented. But what they fail to see in that is she's not swinging the lightsaber like Darth Maul. She's not swinging it like Kanan with technique. She's swinging it like a crazy person.
Conan.
And
yeah,
like Conan. So there is no form, there is no style. She's not parrying and riposting. Like, she is fighting for her life, and that is a Force explosion. Kanan Jarrus cannot beat Darth Maul in a lightsaber fight on his best day, let alone blind. What enables Kanan to win that battle is that Force awakening, to steal their movie title, but that Force explosion, that in that moment, it's like when an athlete is in the zone and they don't miss anything. It's not even them. It's an out-of-body experience, and it's almost the Force dictating his movements. And he's executing technique he knows, but it's almost beyond his power. That's the only way he beats Maul. Otherwise, Maul sucks, and Maul doesn't suck. Mm-hmm. So, and it's Maul now. It's no longer Darth Maul. It's Maul. But yeah, so the Force is always going to be more powerful than all of us, which will lead us to some really cool stuff in season 3, where if people want an education on the Force and they hear what I'm saying and they're like, well, wait a minute, maybe I don't agree with that because I think this, and this, and this. You'll see some stuff in season 3 that sort of establishes how the Force works and clears up some of the gray area. And it's done in a very powerful way through a character that people will fall in love with right away for many, many reasons. But it literally is sort of Force 101 from the beginning to the end and everything in between. And it's going to educate an entire new generation, and us too, right? Even though we're old and gray and remember the original movies, we get to learn stuff too. But it's literally going to introduce the Force to an entire generation who so far has just been like, yeah, go Kanan. All right, Ezra. Whoa, Ezra's going to be stronger than Kanan. No, he's not. Yes, he is. To all this cool fighting stuff. So now they're invested, right? And they know there's something called the Force that unites us and penetrates us. But they don't know what it is. And now that we have their attention in season 3, we can go a little deeper and really define what that is for the entire next generation of fans that are going to Star Wars movies that are not created by our daddy, right? It's by someone who married into the family, so to speak. And we hope that they're going to do the right thing. But if they're not, we'll kill them like Sonny killed Talia Shire's husband, right? In Godfather, in The Godfather. But because of things like this, we can really educate the fan base and let them see honest, cool Star Wars movies in the way that Force Awakens was an honest, cool Star Wars movies. It didn't try to outthink anything. It didn't break the rules like a lot of movies do, which is why movies that steal from Star Wars don't work, is because they break the archetype character rules and they make everybody Han Solo, and that doesn't work. Han Solo's not as cool when everybody's Han Solo. When every actor wants to be the cool guy, then none of the actors are the cool guy.
I think that's why I don't like Firefly, to be honest.
When everybody plays it smarky, then it's just whack. And you got to have people knowing their roles. Like, somebody has to rebound. Somebody has to set picks. Somebody has to shoot the 3. Somebody has to distribute the ball. When everybody wants to be Michael Jordan, you get a bunch of 6-foot guys in the NBA who don't pass the ball, and they should be point guards, but they play like shooting guards, and basketball sucked for 10 years. Like, that's the way it goes when everybody sees something that's that friggin' cool. But I think we auto-correct like the Force does, and I think this latest Star Wars, you saw Finn sell. He played the bumbling fool He didn't shoot straight. He ran from the fight. He shrieked in terror. He was the damsel in distress, which is exactly the way it was with Luke and Han. And they were the damsels in distress, and Princess Leia saved their ass. So, when these are the types of movies that when you stay true to those rules, sometimes those rules got broken in Indiana Jones and it made people angry. And maybe rightfully so. But, when you stay true to it, like they did Deadpool, let's say. Everybody was scared that they were going to wreck Deadpool, but they allowed it to be R-rated. They allowed him to break the fourth wall, and everyone said, okay, we'll give you some creative freedom, but at least you followed the rules. And Star Wars, I really think, is going to continue to do that. I hope, like everyone else, but I honestly, genuinely think it.
Dan, I don't know why we're talking so much. I mean, it sounds like Freddie's got all the great answers, and he's doing a great, wonderful job. I could listen all night, I think.
Well, yeah, this is when we announced that he's taking over.
I loved what you said about Ezra and Yoda. I never even thought about that, but from like Force sparkle dust when his Force powers were BS,
exactly,
to where he's at now. And I wonder if in season 3, if he sees him, then maybe that visual will be even in more HD or 4K or whatever technology.
I fully expect that, because obviously we all know that
so cool.
If Filoni wanted to make Yoda more like he looked in the Clone Wars, he could do that in no time flat. That, to me, that's just how I always interpret. That's the English teacher in me interpreting it that way.
I think that's awesome, and I think you might be right.
It's great, and as we talk about these characters, it's so much fun to talk to you, Freddie, and getting back to kind of Kanan's reaction, I guess we talked about the fight between him and Darth Maul, and you kind of said there about what was taking place, but Kanan's initial reaction immediately after being blinded, he showed some great poise and strength in the Force. It could be argued that he was even more powerful now with the Force. How does the finale impact Kanan going forward and such? And we talked a little bit about that, but it may speak more into maybe the blindness and how that is maybe something he has to work on.
Well, now in that moment, think of that as a burst of adrenaline. When that burst fades, you're far less powerful than you were in the moment. Mm-hmm. This handicap is a make or break moment for his character. If you look into, I don't like to do this too much, but if you look into Extended Universe, a lot of people made the Ram-Koda comparison, and they saw this sort of broken Jedi, this defrocked priest, so to speak, where his handicap was too much for him to bear, and he couldn't allow the Force to help him, and it sort of ruined him as a Jedi, right? I've spoken on this before, so this isn't like a spoiler. That's not the inspiration for Kanan. The inspiration, and you guys are familiar with this because I know you've posted on it, is the 70s Japanese character of Zaitoichi or Zaitochi, some people call it, which is the blind samurai, the blind swordsman. Rutger Hauer made a terrible version of it called Blind Fury in the 80s, but it's such a bad movie, it's awesome. Like when women see Showgirls, they know it's crap, but they're like, I don't care, I have to watch it. That's how that movie is for me. I'm like, look, I gotta just watch 10 minutes of it because it's just awesome. But that's more the storyline for Kanan. So if you want spoilers, watch that film and watch that series and see the direction that warrior had to go down, and I think you'll see some parallels in Kanan's future. This is something he's going to struggle with. It's not, Kanan is cocky as all cocky can be. So when he gets hit with something this hard and sarcasm doesn't work, because as sarcastic as you want to be, at the end of the day, you still can't see. He doesn't have any crutches to hide on. So he's going to have to face the music. He's going to have to look in the mirror, so to speak, and realize who he is and what he's going to have to do to change. And based on those decisions, we'll shape the kind of Jedi that he's going to be in season 3. But it takes some time. It doesn't happen right away. It's not a one episode Cosby Show, like, hey, I can't even say Cosby Show fixed everything now. I know, right? But I'm trying to think of a decent one. Family Ties. It's not an episode of Family Ties where Alex P. Keaton can save us with his young Republican ways. It's it's something that needs to develop. He needs to struggle. He needs to get knocked down. He needs to take a step forward, only to take a few steps back. Season 1 was very short, and so it was sort of a crash course on butt-kicking excitement. Here's an appetizer for The Force Awakens to get kids hyped up for it. Now we have time to really stretch these stories out and allow character development and allow failure, which is so important, because we see that no matter how hard you work, no matter what your parents told you, you might lose, and you might not be good enough. Empire Strikes Back taught us that. Star Wars has always been good at those lessons. It's how you deal with that failure, and are you willing to get up in the face of impossible, right? And say, I don't care. I'll go out on my sword. I'm one Jedi, and I'm going to face 1,000. And die or not, these people are going to live an extra hour. And if that's what it takes for victory, then my death is worth it. Those are hard lessons, man. Like, who can make sacrifices like that? And that's what Star Wars does, and we get time, not just for Kanan, man. Sabine is season 3 all day long, all day strong. I mean, the Mandalorian storyline in season 3 is so powerful. They get much more time to get into the culture than they did in Clone Wars. They animated those episodes and seasons so quickly. They didn't realize people were going to fall in love with Mandalore as much as they did, and they couldn't go back there story-wise because it just didn't make sense anymore. They were already like 2 seasons past that. So Dave is highly aware of the love that people had for Duchess Soutine and Mandalore and Death Squad and Pre-Vizsla, or Death Watch and Pre-Vizsla and that whole storyline. And we pay a lot of tribute to that. We create some new culture within that history that is awesome and powerful and has had so much time and care put into it because Dave has love for Mandalore big time. And so that's a huge part of our season as well. As well as external elements coming into the world as well, and new threats that we have to deal with. So season 3 is crazy. Season 2, the end of our finale, was pretty much the best hour of animation that I've seen in 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm 40 now, 30 years. I loved our finale, but season 3 is just storytelling at another level because now we have an established base, an established audience that can sort of really learn what makes these characters tick. People are going to figure out why Sabine is the way she is, and it's going to be awesome. They're just going to fall in love with her. The same way people crapped on Ahsoka Tano in the beginning, and then once they started to get to know this character and she earned it right around, I don't know, season 3, people are going to have a very similar vibe with Sabine. I think. I could be wrong because it's art, and whether you love it or hate it, you're not wrong. But I genuinely believe this character is going to earn her stripes in season 3.
That sounds cool. And honestly, when we were watching the finale and I saw that Kanan was blinded, of course, first time I was like, oh no. But then I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is the samurai thing that Freddie's talked about on our show before, that I've heard him say on other things. Yeah. It totally lines up.
Hints every once in a while.
Well, yeah, but it just so beautifully lines up because, he's relying on other things besides the physical. He's trusting more in the Force, and he
has to, right?
He does
have
that.
a choice.
That's right, because it's either that or you quit, and he is not a quitter. But that leads me to Ezra. All right, this is a unique thing when I'm watching season 2, and obviously I'm into the show. I'm having a great time, but I actually got ticked off at Ezra in a really weird way for a cartoon. You know what I mean? Not that it's animated. It's amazing. You know what I mean? I don't mean that as a pejorative. But
bro, I don't take cartoon as an insult. I know a lot of animators do, but I love cartoons. I grew up loving cartoons. I say it with the same respect as I would say a film or a movie. Or
Same here, my friend. And by the way, side note, I love that in your cookbook you said Snake Eyes is your favorite. Me too. Anyway. So anyway, that reminded me to talk about awesome cartoons. So
he was very samurai, right?
Oh, totally. After all the training and experiences that Ezra's had with Kanan and all the things that they've done together, to me, why do you think Ezra was so susceptible to Maul's trappings? That really hit me the wrong way.
I think it would hit you the wrong way the same way kids in puberty start to reject all the principles and morals that you've given them when they were prepubescent. He's young, and he has the conversation with Yoda. You know, he wants to save the people that he cares about. He wants to protect them, and Yoda tries to remind him it's how a Jedi chooses to fight. That's what shapes a Jedi. It's a tough lesson to learn, and when somebody is offering you one route to your goal, and it's hard and difficult, and it requires you to train, 10, 12 hours a day, and you're doing missions just to get enough fuel in your ship so you guys don't die, let alone advance this cause that you believe in. And then you meet another guy who says it doesn't have to be that hard. You can, all those feelings that you're having, that want, that desire to make your dreams come true, you need to use those feelings. They make you more powerful than if you don't. When you're a teenager, shoot, man, as an adult, that sounds kind of tasty. Like me just saying that, I'm like, ooh, that sounds good. But imagine if you're a teenager and all you hear is no, 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 no. And every time you've done it, you've been powerful. You saved Kanan's life from the Inquisitor by connecting to the dark side and commanding that big mama Fearnock to go off on the Inquisitor in that cave. And it worked, and it felt good, and you felt powerful. And the person you trust the most says, don't do that. And now you meet this other guy who's like, if you don't, these people are going to die. That person you love so much. And in his mind, he's like, oh, yeah, I did it, and he lived. And if I didn't, he would have died. So this guy must be telling me the truth. And in a way, he is. He is. I don't know if Kanan lives through that, if Ezra doesn't go dark and possess that beast. I don't know if he lives through that. So for a teenager to be dealt that reality, it's not that much of a gap. I would say let him redeem himself in that moment with 7 where he can't pull the trigger and you see that the training has stuck and the Jedi morality is there, and he can't just kill a helpless person. If it's in battle, it's a different story maybe, but she's helpless. Her lightsaber is down, and she has no way to protect herself, and he can't do it. Just like Dave couldn't kill Ahsoka. So take solace in that moment. But I think you should be disappointed in Ezra. That's a good thing. That means the story was told properly because he let you down. He let Kanan down. He has a friggin' Sith holocron, man. We don't need that business. Like, it's not good. So that gives him room to grow in season 3. That gives us a threat and a storyline in season 3 and the chance for him to grow. Remember, Ezra is outgrowing Kanan. I believe by the time this series is over, Ezra will be far more powerful than Kanan ever was.
I think that's fair. Yeah. And you can, it very much alludes to that as well, by the way. Maul is drawn to him and things like that. And you'd think as a parent of 2 teenage boys, I would have thought of how you just explained the Ezra thing. I don't know why that didn't go through my head, but
it's because Dave got you, man. He got you. That's his storytelling. I'm telling you, it's a good thing. It's like when people see certain paintings, right, and they're like, oh, that's repulsive. That might be what the artist wanted you to feel. They might want you to be shocked. Or sometimes artists, like contemporary artists, will put racist words on a page. They want you to see that, and they want that emotion from you because they want people to talk about that.
Huckleberry Finn, that's it right there.
Yeah, man. It's you that when a storyteller can make you angry, right? Like, spoiler alert, Snape kills Dumbledore. Like when an author can wreck your whole life, and I loved that character and was an adult reading that book and was just like, excuse my language, but I literally was like, you bitch. I can't believe you killed him. You can't kill him. And of course, like you said, I have 2 teenage boys. Why didn't I think about that? Me as a kid, Star Wars. Who would kill the sweet grandpa with the white beard who taught the young boy everything he knows? Oh, that's right. Darth Vader did it. But, your brain is so captured by J.K. Rowling in that moment that you have this gutter sort of fanboy moment of like, I can't believe you killed my favorite character. What are you going to kill Hagrid next? Like, it's just psycho when an author can, and Dave is an author, when an author can grab you like that. That means they did their job perfectly. So I love hearing people say that.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I think it's that emotion that comes out as well too. It's like I'm reading of Mice and Men, and at the end there, spoiler alert again, he gets killed. Yep. I mean, I literally cried. I was like, I don't know why
and
that happened.
Has to pull the trigger, man.
Right,
and
yeah.
It's like you feel so bad for George in that moment, and it's just, oh my God! Think of the actor who played that in the movie, and then think about what he had to do to Lenny, and then what he went to court for. That's trippy. Anyway, we're not going to talk about Robert Blake.
Yeah, so we'll switch gears here a little bit. So you got so many things going on, Freddie. It's so much fun to talk to you, and you got a bunch of things coming on TV. You got a new show coming out that you're hosting, First Impressions, and
First Impressions is fun, man. So this show is on Tuesday nights at 10:30 on USA. It's on late because it's a bit more adult, and every once in a while there's a couple bleeps in there. But they grab impressionists, and you can't just be good at voices. You have to be able to improv. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to be creative. And Dana and whoever the other guest is, we put them in these scenarios where they have to do improv type stuff, like whose line is it anyways? Only they have to do it in these characters. And so there were people that I thought would kill. But when the improv part of it came up, they couldn't. And there were people who you didn't know, you weren't sure about, who literally knocked it out of the park. Like we had an episode on this last Tuesday night, and any three of these guys could have won another episode on their own. But we had them, they happened to be our first episode that we recorded. It just aired as the third. But the kid who won, Justin, I was speaking to, and I said, I would love to see you versus the kid who won the week before, this 19-year-old kid named Ryan Goldshire, and the guy who won our first week, Rusty, who literally could change sexes. He could do Jennifer Coolidge impressions.
Amazing.
So I want to see all three of them in like a champions round, right? Because Justin, and if you see the latest episode, he did Vince Vaughn and Marky Mark and Cat Williams, and he vomits energy, right? He literally vomits jokes, and I mean that in the best way possible. He's all energy, whereas Rusty can seamlessly change sexes, and Ryan is this sort of prodigy who isn't completely refined yet, but you can like literally see his future as a star. I want to put all three of those guys in a competition against each other and see and literally watch them improve in front of our very eyes, because those three I think would challenge each other to a level that people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe what I just saw. And so that's my hopes for the show. I just heard yesterday that our numbers have been going up every week. Good. So that's a good sign that maybe they'll do more. We did 6 episodes, so there's 3 left. And if it keeps going up, I think we'll get to do more, and I would do 1,000 of them. I have so much fun watching these men and women do their thing. I mean, the girl who lost, her name was Lauren O'Brien. She just lost the last one. She came in the voting wise, she came in second. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but she did. She could have won any other episode. It was just this one, Justin connected with the audience the most. She does some impressions, and she could change sexes as well. She could do Owen Wilson. She did impressions that literally scared me. Like, she would do Angelina Jolie, and it made you a little uncomfortable, where you're just like, okay, that was almost too good. Like, your face actually morphed like Mystique. Like, it was like creepy. So there are people who are like that good, and Lauren is one of them. I thought she might actually win that episode, and I get an earpiece, so I know who wins before I read the card. That's a little secret. But when they told me it was Justin, I asked him my mic. I said, how close? And the producer was like, it was really close.
That is so cool. Like, okay, so I DVR'd it because I saw that you were doing the show, and I knew we'd be chatting. I wanted to watch it anyway. And so my wife, Deanna, was watching it with me too. And she's like, yeah, I'll fine. I'll watch it, whatever. That's fine. And then like 5 minutes into it, she looks at me and she goes, this is really good. I said, I know.
None of it is scripted. Everything is just
tell.
Fly by the seat of your pants. We're live to tape, and what you see is what you get, man. I mean, it's there's no take twos.
Well, Rusty, you were right on. I mean, first of all, when Steve Carell does that, that thing he does where he's when I didn't know that Dana Carvey discovered him, and when he did that thing where he was just a German guy yelling nice.
Yeah, the German. I've seen that. Yeah,
that was so fucking funny.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Let's get in the minivan and get some frozen yogurt. But that wasn't my German accent, by the way.
Okay.
So how when you tape these shows, like how in advance do you tape them? Because I saw that on Twitter you were hanging out with Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. I'm like, oh wow, I hope those three are doing something.
That's when we shot the episode. I did it in trying to remember the month I did it. It was a couple months ago. I think late February, early March, maybe right around my birthday. I can't. It was a while ago. I've been a little bit busy lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did 6 in like a 2-week period, and I'm telling you, man, like if we only do 6. It was an amazing experience, and I've gotten to become friends with Dana friggin' Carvey.
Which is
Kevin Nealon, who was in the last episode, he and Dana dressed me down as Hans and Franz, and I hope they air some extra footage on the website, because they went on for like 10 minutes straight, and the producer was in my ear like, Freddie, you gotta cut them off. And I'm just in the mic when I see they cut away from me. I was like, bro, you're gonna have to edit this. I ain't telling them to shut up. They're too funny.
Because you're like,
I just let them go in on me, man. It was great.
Because you're living vicariously as like when you were a kid and loving these guys on Saturday Night Live.
Of course, absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, so Freddie, I'll put it out there. I've got a decent Christopher Walken. It's not that great, and I was debating. I'll take a stab at it if that's cool.
Do it, man. If you got to do it, man. Let me hear what you got.
So, Freddie, listen, you're good and you're delicious. You know, you write cookbooks. It's fantastic. But what you need next is a book about desserts. You know, I've got a title for you. Finishes with Freddie is great.
That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. Did you hear the guy that did Walking on Hours?
No, yes, I haven't. With the creepy eyes, man.
Yeah.
He's Howard Stern's guy. And
is he really?
I didn't know how he would do with the improv stuff. And when he got that roller coaster bit, it was like you're Christopher Walken and you're a roller coaster operator. And he started with like, all right, kids, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And like he made it so scary, like it was going to be this roller coaster of terror, man. It was the best. It was the best segment he did. His name's Craig, and but I was like, man, I don't know if because everyone has a walk-in. So on that show, a lot of those guys are avoiding doing Christopher Walken because they don't want to sound. Because like you heard me, I have a crappy one. You have one that's better than mine. Like Brian Austin Green and I, when we did my sitcom a decade ago, we did a cold open where we're both just doing bad Christopher Walkens to each other, right? Like that's the joke. Like everybody has one. When this guy did his, it was like Christopher Walken when they say cut, right? Like when the cameras aren't rolling, that's what he's really like. And it just was so good and creepy and just sort of put you on your toes a little bit, man. He did a great job. His Pacino was great too, but his Christopher Walken was scary good.
Every time he did it, I expected him to get in an ice cream truck and drive away. That's true. So, I mean, you talked a lot about The Force Awakens already, which is a good bonus, but I know you're not a big trailer person. Did you catch the trailer for Rogue One?
I did. I did an episode of Jedi Collider Council. What I always mess up what it's called. They just do the Schmodown is what I know them from. But Christian Harloff and Mark Ellis and John Kimbia. I did their show on YouTube, and they said, "Look, we're showing this trailer. We're going to talk about it. I know you don't watch trailers." I did an episode. It was me and Sam Witwer. We went on together, and I said, yeah, okay, fine, I'll watch it. And once I heard the Death Star alarm, the siren, that I guess not the Death Star. Was it Hoth maybe? Or is it
that's a Death Star, yeah.
Death Star, yeah.
Death Star. But once I heard that, I was like, oh my God. And I love Forrest Whitaker. I know him a little bit. We used to go to museums together and just like talk about weird, random stuff. And we did it to talk about a movie that he was going to direct that I was going to act in, and the financing fell through. It was just a small independent film. But we walked through the LACMA Museum, the Los Angeles County Museum for Modern Art, and it was like a history of Los Angeles, and they had some stuff on my dad in there, and we just started like talking more about Hollywood in the old days, and he said, hey man, I think we should make like a monthly thing out of this. I really like talking to you. And so we went to different museums and just different like parks and things like that, and we would just talk about life and Eastern philosophy versus Western philosophy and the pros and cons of both. And so when I see him in a Star Wars movie in what seems like one of the sickest characters ever, like, it just gives me goosebumps because I'm so happy for him, man. And his dialogue already sounds so dull, like, what will you do when they break you? And his voice is so money, man. So I was glad I watched it. I never watched trailers, never. But I couldn't have been happier, man. And I loved seeing the ragdoll physics when the guy blew up. That's from video games, by the way.
Yeah, very much so.
So, as we gather around the TV to watch Rebels and all these great TV shows you have coming on the air, we need to step back into the kitchen for a minute because you got a book coming out. It comes out June 7th. It's called Back to the Kitchen. It features 75 recipes of your own design. So talk to us a little about this book, how it came to be, and how much fun it was to write.
My wife has wanted me to do something like this for 10 years now, and it never felt organic. And I always said, I don't want to just do a book that has recipes in it. Everybody does that, and that wouldn't be interesting. And I kind of just forgot about it, no matter how many times she would bring it up. And I cook for my family 3-4 nights a week, and so writing a book didn't really feel right. And one day my manager said, hey man, this book agent keeps calling me. She wants you to write a cookbook, man. Do you cook? And I was like, yeah, I used to cook on like Rosie O'Donnell and on the Martha Stewart show before she went to jail and all these other shows, because it was just something I knew how to do. And he goes, well, will you talk to her? Will you think about it? And I was like, yeah, Sarah's always been. And sometimes you just need that second voice to make an idea that was already good sound good to you, right? And so I sat and talked with this agent, and she said she had this whole like game plan. I was like, look, here's what I would love to see from you. What is it you like about cooking? Tell me about the history of all this. And I started telling her all these stories that were connected to meals that I had cooked, whether it was a story about me wanting to make pancakes for Parker Posey because she deserved something special, because she was this special creature and nothing in LA was good enough for her. And I just thought that was awesome. She wasn't a diva. She was like an alien from another planet that genuinely required certain things a certain way. And so I wanted to make her pancakes and named them, and I never even got to give them to her. And a million other stories over 20 years in this business, and other stories just from my life. Like you were talking about the Bob Wall burgers. Like Bob Wall taught me how to fight. Bob Wall introduced me to Gene LaBelle, who taught me how to choke people out, because Gene LaBelle choked me out when I was 8 years old. Bob Wall was the guy who introduced me to Chuck Norris when I won this big Taekwondo tournament and thought I was hot stuff, and Chuck broke my rib on accident. Whoa. And my godmother was going to kick Bob's ass, because if she sent me home with a broken rib, my mom would shoot somebody, and my mom would have. So I got to stay in LA for an extra 4 weeks, and because Bob said I needed training, and it was really just so I could heal my broken rib and they wouldn't get in trouble with my mom. But, he was a big influence in my life, and I remember him always having these burgers that were just ready for him in the oven when he got home from work. And we would sit there and eat them together, and he would tell me stories about Bruce Lee when he trained Bruce when Bruce came to America, and Bruce taught him as well. But he would talk to me about Eastern philosophy. That always goes back to Eastern philosophy. But this is how I know so much about it, was because of my godfather. And, he was a master in Tang Soo Do, which is the Korean form of Taekwondo, but it's existed for, hundreds of years before Taekwondo did. It literally is the foundation that Taekwondo stands upon today. And he was at the time, I think, a 5th degree black belt in it. Now he's 65 years old, probably even older, and he's a bazillionth degree black belt and can still kick my ass. But he was the guy who would teach me about meditation and about balance, and he would teach me how to fight. But then if we trained for an hour, he would make me garden for an hour, because he wanted me to know how to cultivate and build things, not just how to break things. And it was this awesome life to get to live, because it was an escape from my real world in New Mexico, which sucked. I didn't have a dad. I hated school. I didn't have any friends. Everyone treated me weird because my dad was the one that shot himself in the head. And cooking and martial arts and video games were the only escapes that I had. And oddly enough, I still do all three of those things today. But when you find those things that you can grab onto and love, like my mom used to say, you feed a dog, you cook a meal for your family. And I cook meals for my dog too now. But I always liked her philosophy of you cook a meal for your family, which means you do it together. My daughter cooks with me. 90% of the recipes in there your kids can do with you. They're not unsafe. 90% of the recipes in there are 9 ingredients or less, and that includes salt and pepper, so it's really 7. I really try to make things easy and accessible, and instead of just a recipe, here's a story as to why this recipe sort of exists in the friggin' first place. And most of them are funny. I have a couple stories in there that are a little more serious. I talk about stories about Robin Williams and I discussed, having this dinner over and over and over. And the same way Paul Walker and I would discuss doing jiu-jitsu together over and over and over. And you just put it off because you take for granted that those people are always going to be there. And you'll always, we'll do it next week. Yeah, no problem. No, we'll do it when the season's over. Yeah, okay, we'll do it after episode 1 from season 2. And then all of a sudden you didn't do it and it's over and it's gone. And there's never going to be a chance to do it again. And so the lesson in that is, I hope when somebody reads that story, they call their friend right away that they haven't heard and say, come over, I'm cooking you dinner. It's some weird thing that Freddie came up with, but I'm going to try to do it, and I just want to hang out with you. And so there's stories like that, too. But for the most part, I try to keep it funny. I try to be entertaining the same way I do on my Twitch stream. The same way I do with you guys. I try to crack jokes with you. And even if we're talking about serious Jedi philosophy, I try to make you laugh, too. And so that's what I do with the book, man. There's a ton of stories in there, not just recipes.
Obviously all very true. When I was reading this book, when we got it last week, and I was, with my wife, and she's like, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? I'm like, Freddie's cookbook is hilarious. She was, it is? And I said, yeah. So I read that.
I want someone to say that. Like, I think this cookbook is funny. Like, I just think that's awesome.
True, man. There have been 2 times in my life when I laughed out loud reading a book, and one was Seinfeld's book, Sign Language, and 2 was your book.
Read one of Paul Reiser's books. You'll laugh.
I did read that too. I think I listened to that when I was driving to Florida one time. So that, I don't know if that counts, but yeah, it's truly funny. And honestly, like you just mentioned this a little bit ago, but your wife's foreword and your intro, like those 2 things before you even read a single recipe are worth the price of the book alone, because there's like something powerful about the family. It's so true though. And I'm telling you, Freddie, I talked about this on my Mr. Zared, my personal Twitter account, but I don't cook, dude. I just don't cook. I have 3 college degrees. I can read really, really well. And my wife always says, if you can read, you can cook, Dan. And for some reason, your intro, and though you talked about what it means for you and your family, I just said to my wife, look, it's summer. I'm going to cook. I'm going to use this book and I'm going to cook. And we made your uncle's burgers, and my wife took a bite and she said to my mom, Dan cooked. And she acted like I was Freddie Prinze Jr. or something. She was so happy. So I really want to sincerely thank you for that. It's really cool.
Well, bro, start with the easy stuff, build your way up to the medium stuff. And there's like 2 or 3 more complex ones that you should save to the end. But man, you have the summer. There's a ton of summer stuff in there to grill, from fish to chicken. Do the foiled salmon, man. The foil is the easiest thing in the world. That's what's going to cook everything for you. You can literally fold it up, roll it up, and let the liquid in there do all the work. You come back, you lift the foil, you put it on a plate, open it up. There's no cleanup. You don't even have a pot or a pan to wash. True. Just throw it away when you're done. Like, it's the easiest thing in the world. You cook it all together, and it'll be bomb. I promise, man. There's easy stuff in there that will make you go, oh, wait a minute, I can do this, man. And then you'll say, instead of asparagus, I'm going to do spinach because I feel like doing that, and I think it's going to work. And you know what? It friggin' will. And that's how you get good at cooking, man, is by going, yeah, I like this, but I'm going to change this. I'm going to add some corn to this. I don't think this needs salt, so no salt. I'll try soy sauce instead. You can do anything like that once you get confident with one recipe. And it has to go beyond burgers. So you start with burgers. That's kindergarten. And first grade is, like the kielbasa sandwich, because everybody loves sausage. Sure. And like the third one, then challenge yourself a little bit. Do one of the steaks, man, with the rub that I talked about.
Here's the 2 things I'm like mainly the most excited about or three, is the pancakes, the French toast, and the fight night nachos.
The nachos,
dude,
yeah.
The nachos are the ones that everyone.
Yeah.
So there's this guy on ESPN Radio out here in Los Angeles. His name is Michael Thompson, and he was the #1 draft pick in like 1978 in the NBA, and played on the championship Lakers team. He was Kareem's backup in the 80s and won 2 rings with them. And his son is Klay Thompson from the world champion Golden State Warriors, even though they're about to get eliminated this year. And his other son is playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers in left field and is mashing the ball, has more home runs than anyone on the team. And I do the radio show with him sometimes because I want him to be my dad and want some of his athletic God magic to like wash over me and heal my broken body. But he always makes me cook something. So I brought him cherry pie. I brought him this. I brought him that. And I was talking about the nachos at a radio break with the other host on the show, Mike Trudell. And Michael Thompson, he's like 6'9", from the Bahamas, black dude, super cool. He's in his 60s now, but just young at heart, like younger than all of us. And he goes, "What? Nachos!" And he's a huge boxing fan. Like him and I argue about boxing versus MMA on the air all the time. And he's always wrong. I'm always right. And he's like, "What do you mean you don't make no nachos? You can't come on the show again until you bring me the fight night nachos." Everybody loves those. I think I even had those on QVC when I was selling it on QVC. And David started doing some happy dance after he took a bite. So that was a win. But they're good, man. And it's better than just having like chips and salsa for your friends. They'll go bananas for that. And they're super easy. They're so easy, man.
Is that kindergarten too, or is that like first?
Man, that should be like the third thing you make, if not the very next thing you make.
Okay. I think I'm going to. I'll let you know because I'm really excited.
Make the steak second because the rub is basically the same. Mm-hmm. And then that way you can do the steak ahead of time and just rewarm it in the oven when you toss it on the nachos, and then you can do chicken if you want to, but steak is all.
I like that.
Well, I'll say too. When my wife and I, we did the green chili burger, and
that's my favorite.
We were putting that together, and it was like, how do you do this? I don't know. And she, it's just like. It's one of those things that you said. It brings the family together. We had our kids, and we were feeding them. We got a bunch of kids, so we got to make a bunch of patties and stuff. So it was like, it was a moment like it was kind of fun to like, hey, let's just try this out and let's just have some fun with it. And we didn't know what we were doing, but it was like, I want to explain too is like the instructions are fun, and but to be able to just have that moment, in the kitchen with your family and your friends and whatnot, it's gonna be a blast. I think Dan and I are looking to have maybe like a Star Wars night and do a recipe out of your book there, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh man, that would be cool. Yeah, dude, the burger you did is my favorite burger. Yeah. But with the green chili, that's a harder thing, and I think I even say this in the recipe. That's a harder thing to get kids to eat. If it's not in that one, I mention it in another one because not all kids can handle the heat. My daughter loves pickles, so I do the ancho chili rub still on the patty, and she doesn't notice. She just knows it tastes good, and pickles are always a good strong contrast to that. But for as far as the grown-ups go, that green chili cheeseburger is no joke. And if you like, there's a lot of ways to do the chili, but after you roast it, after you peel it, and that's the one you chose is hard work, by the way. And I say that in the green sauce too. I say this is the hardest, the most time-consuming recipe in the book is, peeling that chili the right way, because not everyone does it. And you don't have to, but I think it tastes much better if you do. Yeah. Once you peel that chili, all the hard work is done. And you could dice that if you want, put it in some aluminum foil, do 1 small clove of garlic that you minced, toss that in there with it with some salt and pepper and a touch of olive oil, and just place that aluminum foil packet over your range, the stovetop range, on like medium heat, and once you hear it start sizzling, cut it to low and just let it cook in there for like 5, maybe 7 minutes, and then it's already cooked and ready. And so the next time you make the burger, you just put that on after you flip it and put the cheese over it so the cheese melts on top of the chilies. Forget about it, man.
So you make it seem so easy. To me, it's like intimidating, but you know what? I think
you just have to do it once, man.
It's
a
metaphor.
You were scared to jump off a diving board probably the first time you did it.
Yes.
Riding a bike, you sucked at until one day you got it and momentum worked, and then you were the man. Like everything's about confidence. With First Impressions, they said, "Hey, do you want to host a show?" I was like, "I don't know how to host a freaking show. Like, there was a part of me that was scared, and then other parts you go, look, dude, you were scared when you did Saturday Night Live, but you just said, F it, don't be scared. If you fall on your face, you fall on your face, but don't be afraid to fall on your face. And because I wasn't afraid, I did a good job. But if you are afraid, 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail.
Absolutely.
So if you just say, for lack of a better term, F it, and whatever happens, happens. Like Richard Pryor had this great philosophy after he had his accident and lit himself on fire. And it was his first special sort of coming back. And he said, look, I feel the tension in the room. And he says this as a part of the show on Live on the Sunset Strip. He says, I feel the tension in the room. I know you guys want me to do great. I want to do great for you. But look, I already got my check. So let's just enjoy whatever happens. And it's that ability to just say, look, if I suck, I suck. And when you can say that 9 times out of 10, you don't suck. It's like they tell a jump shooter, just relax, shoot the ball. Or a golfer, they always say, or a baseball player, they go, just remember why you started playing baseball. Because it was fun. Just have fun and be fearless. That's what it's all about, man. And if you, like, I screwed up short ribs, and I tried to make short ribs one time, and I didn't cook them long enough, and dinner was ruined, and we had to eat leftovers, and I didn't make short ribs again for 3 years because I was scared. I didn't want to screw it up again. And finally one day Sarah was like, will you just make them, please? They're going to be good. Just make them. And so I did, and they were great because I did it right the second time.
Isn't that funny how we are as people? We like silly things that, you know what I mean? And like, I agree with you. This is a good metaphor. If you're intimidated by something, that's good. Like I'm scuba certified, and the main reason I did it, besides I thought it would be cool to swim with sharks, is I thought if I screw this
My
up,
wife too, by the way.
Really, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, she did the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, man. She's like hardcore.
That's hardcore. I haven't done anything near that, but I thought if I screw this up, I could drown. So I forced myself to do it because I know every year when I teach freshmen and seniors, when those freshmen walk through that door, they are scared to death. And I wanted to feel and remind myself how they are going to feel when they are scared to try something. So it was really good.
Fear can be a killer or a great motivator, but making yourself uncomfortable is key.
That's
like
right.
In jiu-jitsu or in like high school wrestling, it's like, yeah, bro, I know your takedowns are good. Now get it on your back. And it's like, it's where you don't want to be. That's where I want you to be great, is where you're weak. Like, I know your arm locks are sick, so you don't get to do any arm locks today. And that messes guys up because they don't have that crutch to lean on. But it makes them better in 3 or 4 lessons because all of a sudden their heel hook or their ankle lock or their knee bar is suddenly money. And it's the same thing with cooking. Like, well, I never made a sushi roll, so I don't want to make it. Well, then make it. And the first one's going to be garbage, man. So you're going to be hungry that night. But you're going to get better at it as time goes on. And the ones you screw up, just cook that fish, sear it up, and eat it. You'll be fine.
It's totally true.
But yeah, fear of failure. And we live in a generation now, like that God mode generation, which we talked about the first time we ever talked, where there is no fail because your characters in video games are invulnerable. You don't have to save bullets because you have unlimited bullets. You take no damage. Well, those kids, when they have to deal with real problems, and video games help you problem solve, they have no answers because in the game they had no issues, they had no problems. You and I grew up in an era where games were forced you to change. They didn't change for you. You failed and had to put in another quarter and then another one. And son of a gun, there's another quarter in that machine. And it wasn't until you let go of your attachments of the way you wanted to play like a Jedi and adapt and be open that's when you were able to beat E.T. But it took that much effort and frustration and failure in order for you to be great. And that's why I kick the crap out of kids in multiplayer games online, because there's no God mode in online gaming and those kids can't hack it.
That's great, and that's the perfect thing. I know time's running short, so we gotta close this up, which is unfortunate because it's always a good time. But so Twitch too, Freddie. Seriously, do you ever sleep, man?
Man, I don't sleep too much, but as you get older, you don't need as much sleep. Look, when I was a kid, man, I could get 14 hours like it was nothing. But now I get like 4 to 6 a night. I love gaming. I don't get a lot of time. Except when my kids are at school or when my kids and my wife are in bed. So when they all fall asleep, I usually, that's like why I can only do the podcast with you guys at 9 o'clock at night, because that's when I get everybody in bed and tucked in or relaxed and make sure my wife is fed and has a TV show she wants to watch or whatever she needs is taken care of. And then I can go do my thing for a while. But gaming is something that's been in my blood for a long time, since Atari came out with Combat, and the first time I played Pitfall, and that was the most frustrating game in the world. You would spend 10 times trying to jump over that crocodile only to fail on the next stage, and then you have to go all the way back to the beginning. But it made you a better man. So it's always been a big part of me. And when I got involved with Twitch, I didn't even know what it was. And someone said, "Oh, you should stream." I said, "I don't even know what that is." And I didn't know what to do. And so the first one I did, I just started telling some stories. Some things happened in the game that kind of reminded me of something that happened in a movie, and I started telling stories, and all of a sudden I was like, this is what this is. Like, I love telling stories. You can tell I never shut up. All I do is talk. I ruin every podcast we do because you only get to ask like 2 questions. And so I've done a full-on like Star Wars podcast on my darn Twitch stream because I was playing Star Wars Battlefront. And someone asked me a question on Rebels in the chat, and I was like, "Okay, let's talk about Mandalore." And it was like a 40-minute conversation about Pre Vizsla.
So cool.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's a great way for me to interact with a different community because not all gamers watch Star Wars, and a lot of them watch the movies but have never heard my weirdo philosophies on the characters and my take on things, and they find it funny or they find it interesting or they disagree vehemently. But whatever it is, we can engage in a really cool, fun conversation. And I like making people laugh, and I've done a lot of that on the movies I've done, making the cast laugh. So I tell a lot of those stories and stuff like that and have a great time with it. I got to introduce my dad's comedy album, and I streamed it on Twitch. And had a friend do like a layout and a background of my dad performing in the cantina on Tatooine, which was awesome. By the way,
that is awesome.
And he was in this like Elvis like jumpsuit from Chico and the Man, and we played his comedy album in the background from the 70s. It was called Looking Good, and I got to introduce my father's comedy to an entire generation, a completely different demographic of kids and adults and everyone who was on the Twitch stream, to somebody that they had maybe heard of or hadn't heard of and got to experience for the very first time. And then I got to tell stories about my father and Richard Pryor and the beef that they had when Richard made their manager choose between him and their manager chose my father. And I got to tell the story of when I met Richard and he was like, "Your father was a mother bleeper, but he was a funny mother bleeper." and how powerful that was to me. And that's not a story that I would normally share, but in a gaming environment, it's just so open and free because I'm very comfortable in that skin because that's who I am.
Right.
So I just feel like I'm talking with homies because we are homies. We're keeping each other alive. You know what I mean? Or I'm keeping them alive because I'm playing the healer and the tank's like, "Hey, sweet heal." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my thing." And all of a sudden, we're just talking about life and stuff like that. So I love Twitch. I didn't know that I would, but I kind of found my thing in it. And if you dig old Hollywood stories, and I have stories from the 70s all the way to today because of my old man and all the old school cats that I've met over the years. But come check it out. Like, I talk to everybody. I shoot a bunch of teenagers and laugh in their face, and it's a good time.
Do you have to have the same? Like, we have a PS4. Do you have to have the same thing, or is it just something you watch? How does it work?
Like, Twitch is a free app. Like, you don't have to pay for this. You can just download the app and join the session and hang out and watch. It's totally free. You don't have to pay me a dime. It's just an opportunity to interact and maybe watch an art form that you're not accustomed to watching, which is video games. The same way, Star Wars Rebels may be an art form that people aren't used to seeing, or professional wrestling is an art. It's all art, and this may be a way for you to get into it. You know what I mean? You may be like, "Oh, God, I didn't know they made video games like this. This video game seems like a choose-your-own-adventure book." Well, yeah, it is. It was inspired by that book. You should check it out. And then I have a homie who's like, "This game is amazing. What is Mass Effect?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro. Play video games. They're cool. It's not just Street Fighter 2 anymore," which is an awesome game.
Yeah.
But not everybody's into a fighting game. Some people want a story, and they don't know that there's games out there with no killing. It's just a full-on story. There's games out there that are just about falling in love. There's games out there that are just about getting some booty. Like, there's games out there for every personality type. It just depends if the right key gets unlocked to introduce you to it. And that's what I try to do.
See, Corey, I'm sure you agree. Like, if we were to have like a sports podcast, a food podcast, an entertainment podcast, a philosophy podcast, it really doesn't matter. You are the guest, my friend, to have on. So we, as always, appreciate your time and your insights and your passion. Listeners of Coffee with Kenobi, be sure to go to the link on our show notes, or go to Amazon.com, or go to the actual website itself, and be sure to purchase Back to the Kitchen. It's an amazing book. Corey and I have both tried the recipes. We've read the book. You've heard us talking about it. Watch First Impressions. Of course, be ready for season 3 of Rebels. Going to be here before you know it. Freddie, thank you so much for coming back to Coffee with Kenobi.
No, I really appreciate it, and it was incredibly thoughtful for you guys to get a copy of the book and actually cook something and post it. It's very thoughtful and kind, and I appreciate that. And it's one of the reasons why I like doing your shows, because you guys are just real, genuine, cool dudes. And I look forward to talking again, man. We'll have a lot to talk about once season 3 starts.
I know. We look forward to it as well. Thank you so much, and we can't wait to see what's coming from Rebels and Freddie Prinze Jr.
Thanks, guys.
Our topic for show number 55 is a closer look at Finn, Rey, and Poe Dameron. The new big three of Star Wars has become instantly beloved, and we want to look at what makes them tick. How are they foils for one another? How do they enhance one another? And how do their inner conflicts impact the overall story? Joining us on this topic is Lattes with Leia co-host and all-around Star Wars aficionado, Amy Ratcliffe. Be sure to send us an email or MP3 with your thoughts, comments, questions, and opinions to feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. And who knows, your question might be read on the air.
I like the sound of that.
Echo 3 to Echo 7. Hano, buddy, do you read me?
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
Our first email comes from Hector Rios, and he says, "Kudos to you guys, Dan and Corey, for bringing us in-depth and thought-provoking conversation with Pablo Hidalgo. His take on Anakin and Padme's relationship made me see it in a new light. I always knew that it was an emotionally immature relationship, but his view that Anakin didn't really love Padme for her, but how she impacted his state of mind and well-being. This blew my mind. I always defended their relationship as true love, but I don't know about that anymore. That is what makes Star Wars great. It's changing, ever-growing mythology. Keep up the good work you do, and may the Force be with you." Hector Rios. Well, thanks, Hector, for your email. I appreciate you writing in for us and being a listener, and definitely listening in on Pablo Hidalgo conversation. It was great to have him on. He was a lot of fun. I know I enjoyed myself speaking with him. I know it was right up there with my top shows we've done, just having folks on and to talk to them. Just their knowledge base is so huge. Pablo just brings, hits home runs every single time. Whenever we talk to this guy, he's just a boatload of knowledge and just perspectives, and I absolutely love it.
And Pablo's just a fun guy to work with and chat with too. I had a good time writing a May the 4th article for StarWars.com, and I chose to look at kind of the mythology of Star Wars and why these stories still resonate and speak to us. And so I interviewed Chris Taylor, Steve Sansweet, and Pablo. And, they're not super in-depth. I mean, they're just paragraph. But what all of these three gentlemen added to the conversation was, of course, great and insightful and mind-blowing. And Pablo is just a good guy. And that conversation, like you said, that we had with him was so great. Like, he answered some of the questions that I've always wondered about Star Wars. I mean, especially back since, how did Leia remember her real mother, and his input on that, and his insights into Anakin and Padme, I thought was right on. It was something that I had felt, but I didn't quite put it in the way that he did. Anakin's selfish. And whether he's selfish by his actions, a lot of people, for some reason, have a hard time looking at that. And that's fine. It's certainly opinion-based, but he did try to destroy Padme. And he spent, the greater part of his adult life regretting that. But it's still something, again, that he was emotionally immature in their relationship. They didn't get to encounter that as adults because they were just in such a weird, chaotic place in the galaxy that is just so, hard to even fathom how one would actually deal with something like that. So Hector Rios Jr., we appreciate that, and I know you've been great to interact with on Twitter, and we've certainly heard from you before. And keep on sending your emails, and we appreciate your support as well as your opinions on the Pablo conversation. We will pass that along to him for sure. Our second email comes from Stephen Kent, and he writes, "Hey guys, really enjoyed your appearance the other day on the Star Wars Report. That was an added bonus. Coffee with Kenobi was the first Star Wars podcast I fell in love with, and your episodes are always a highlight of my day when they release. Y'all's positive fandom inspired me to take a leap of my own. So I wanted to share with you a new bi-weekly Star Wars podcast I've launched called Beltway Banthas. It's a Star Wars podcast inspired by an equal love of Star Wars and politics that strives to both dissect the politics within Star Wars and also to tell the stories of people who work in news, government, and politics that are huge Star Wars fans themselves. If you care to check it out, you can find it on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and our RSS feed. If you find the show to be interesting, we would love an opportunity to talk with you and your audience about it, or have someone from the Coffee with Kenobi family on our show to geek out on Galactic Senate procedures. Episode 4 will roll out on the 18th, and our first guest interview with Kristen Soltis Anderson from CNN, MSNBC, and the Pulsars podcast will come out soon. Have a great rest of the week, and may the Force be with you, Stephen." Stephen, that is so cool. That is really the key that I always tell people about starting a new podcast, especially a Star Wars podcast, is you have to find a niche. You have to find something unique that you bring to the table.
Yep.
And clearly Stephen is doing that, and he's balancing his love of Star Wars with another passion of his, that being politics. And he actually makes it sound interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not, because I'm not a history major. I wrote about this for the Bloodline review for the site, but I'm not a history major, but in politics is something that I appreciate, but I don't understand it. And Stephen clearly understands it. And I guarantee you that listening to Beltway Banthas is going to have you looking at politics and Star Wars in a whole new way. And I'm on board, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's so cool that we get emails from other people who are inspired to be able to, go out there and, like you said, take their talents and their expertise and to kind of throw it in their own podcast and grab that, like I said, that niche and be able to wrap it up into a fun way to be able to explore Star Wars. And that's what the thing about Star Wars itself is it's so many diverse ways to look at it. And he's obviously come up with a great idea and definitely has a plan in mind. And I might even check this out. Like I said, I'm not a big politics person, but I like to understand the politics in Star Wars better and get a better understanding of where that perspective comes from. So thanks, Stephen, for writing in and be able to explore this. And folks looking to try something new, check this out.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section, or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date at our Twitter feed at Coffee with Kenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
Give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 54 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to Freddie Prinze Jr. for returning and for discussing the Season 2 finale of Star Wars Rebels. Be sure to check out First Impressions on the USA Network and to purchase his cookbook via the link in our show notes.
A special shout out to Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Daniel, Angela Sals, Neil Rowley, Mediocre Jedi, Nick DiColandrea, Aaron Harris, Mark Sutter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. By supporting our Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways and can also win a Coffee Chat podcast of your own. Check out our website or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, and Zach Designs affiliate links on the site. Thank you for your generosity to the Coffee with Kenobi family.
Be sure to check out the other shows in our Coffee with Kenobi family: Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lots of Things with Leia, which are all here on the Coffee with Kenobi feed. A big thank you to our media specialist, Lisa Dullard, our Coffee with Kenobi bloggers, Nick DiColandrea, everyone who contributed to this show, and to all of you out there who listen to and email Coffee with Kenobi. Don't forget to send us your comments, questions, and opinions on the topic for show number 55, a closer look at Finn, Rey, and Poe.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
There's no one here. Move along.